JP, good morning. I know you have thoughts on the Yamamoto sweepstakes. We just got through talking about where we think it stands, but we're not quite as low to the ground as you are. What's the very latest?
Matt and Harold, good morning on this Monday. Certainly last week belonged to Shohei Ohtani. This is going to be the week for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. As you alluded to earlier on in the show, yes, good morning indeed. We do believe that he will make his decision sometime this week, and there are those who are connected to the process who believe that decision could come by the middle of the week, which I think would be really important from the overall market, because then we could see even more pitchers signed before the Christmas holiday. And certainly you mentioned the reports earlier on in the show about the Mets and the Yankees having second meetings. I do believe there's a strong triumvirate there, Mets, Yankees, and Dodgers, who appear to be the strongest contenders at this moment. There are, though, other teams involved, so we have to make sure that we broaden out the perspective. The Phillies, I'm told, did have a very productive meeting with Yamamoto, and I'm even told that Bryce Harper had a FaceTime conversation with Yoshinobu Yamamoto to help with the recruiting process for the Philadelphia Phillies. So that market is heating up. You acknowledge as well where those numbers were going. Jim Bowden talking about that $300 million number. I'm not sure if it's necessarily going to be at that level, but we could see here in the coming days a massive number for Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
I guess we shouldn't be surprised, because all things have happened perfectly in this free agent's case, right? He's coming off of dominant seasons in Japan. He is age-friendly, he's 25, and he's got all the major market teams not only involved, but I'd say desperately involved for pitching. Maybe it's different if the Yankees and or Red Sox and or Dodgers have deep five-man staffs, but that's not the case with any of these teams, JP.
It's a great point, Matt. This is exactly on script. If you were going to imagine the best possible environment to bring Yamamoto over to MLB, it is exactly this mix of teams. And you mentioned the Red Sox and the Giants. They're certainly both involved here on Yamamoto. They have been interested in pursuing him as well. And the big question now is, whoever doesn't get Yamamoto, where do you then pivot next? And I think this is where it's going to be probably a good week for Jordan Montgomery, for Blake Snell. The Giants in particular, even after getting Jung-Hoo Lee, they need some starting pitching, and Ken Rosenthal's reported on the possibility of whatever they end up doing with the rotation, if they bring in a veteran starter, again, Yamamoto or Snell or Montgomery, they may then trade from their pitching depth to bring in the additional bats that they need. I think you would also look at a similar situation. The Toronto Blue Jays, of course, we know they were in there pursuing Shohei Ohtani. When you don't get the big guy, and I would refer to Yamamoto as another big guy, that you must now get multiple other players, whether it's a starting pitcher or position players, to round out your club. And so once Yamamoto decides, I think we'll see teams like the Red Sox, Giants, Jays, if they don't get him, they will then look to add multiple players to round out their roster.
All right, so JP, where does he land? What team?
Prediction, I'll say this. This is not a report that it's going to happen, Harold.
Get ready to get hammered.
I do think,
get hammered on the internet.
Everybody's on the internet.
There you go. There you go, guys. I do think the Yankees are in a lot of ways the team to beat here. Because, yes, the Mets are involved, but the Yankees, they have this need for that high-level starting pitcher. They, of course, already have Garrett Cole in place. They need, though, whether it's Carlos Rodon or Yamamoto, to step in and be that co-ace alongside with Garrett Cole. So I will say the Yankees remain, from what I can tell, the team to beat. Again, I'm not saying it's reported here. This is just the way I view the marketplace. The Yankees are the team to beat here, where teams are going to have to find a way to go above and beyond what they have offered to be able to get Yamamoto. And I think the Dodgers and Mets are right there with the Yankees.
So I want to ask you this on the Yankee front. So last year, lock up Aaron Judge, and it was like pulling teeth for a little bit to make sure that they went out there with the money to go put Aaron Judge in there, because they want to try to stay some kind of restraint there. And then you obviously have Garrett Cole, who has an option at the end of the year. Are they willing to go $300 million for this guy? Because that's where it's going to end up.
That's the big question, Harold. I think that they are willing to get into that range. But to your point, if the number's going to begin with a 3, we have to make sure we clarify it's either the number of the guarantee or the contract that Yamamoto gets plus the release fee that goes back to his NPB club. So this is not just the contract, it's the release fee. Of course, that was not the case with Ohtani this offseason because he was a major league free agent. This is an additional layer of expenditure. I do believe the Yankees are willing to get into that range. I also think that it's possible that if Yamamoto truly wants to be a Yankee, and I do believe that they are one of the teams, and I want to make clear that I'm saying one of the teams that he's had his eye on for a while, do you wonder, is there a way that he goes to the Yankees even if a team like the Mets comes in with the highest offer, which given the interest of Steve Cohen, you have to believe that's a possibility that the Mets are going to have the highest offer. But if the Yankees are the team that he has had his heart set on for a long time, for years, you do wonder if there's a little discrepancy. Would he still decide to be a Yankee? That, to me, is the huge question. No matter what happens, you're going to have at least one New York team that's disappointed. And that, to me, is going to set up a tremendously interesting holiday period ahead as to what their pivot is going to be.
If, in fact, Yamamoto signs with the Dodgers, might there be a world where he's on the mound and Shohei Ohtani is playing defensively in an outfield corner?
Take a guess!
Matt, no, that, as the Mad Dog would say, this is a very interesting situation. And Harold was there last week, as he alluded to. By the way, Harold's itinerary last week was one of the best of all time in Major League Baseball, what he was able to do there. LA, Vegas, he's the man. But he was there when Dave Roberts was acknowledging the possibility of playing Shohei Ohtani in the outfield for at least this year. And we talk about the many ways in which
finally realizing I said this a while ago. Remember that, man? I had to bring the video.
You did. You said it.
I'm gonna give you credit. And Harold, if you want to throw to this, Harold, I will let you do it. Okay, so let's say this. Harold, I'm gonna lay out and let us play the video here. Harold has called this for a long time. Shohei Ohtani playing the outfield. Here it is. No?
No. What are you queuing up imaginary video now, Morosi?
Well, no, I mean, that was what Harold said he called this. So I thought Harold had it ready to go.
Oh,
but
no, I'm just now seeing your report. I'm sitting there going, see?
The point is on this, Harold, you've talked about what a great athlete Shohei Ohtani is. I believe the athleticism exists there for him to play the outfield, especially in a year in which he is not going to pitch. It's going to, I think, for him, expand the ways in which the Dodger lineup could look, add in even more offense to the way that lineup looks. And Harold, you've talked about this before. Look at the way Dodger Stadium could look. You may have a full cheering section in left field. This used to be Manningwood, of course, and now it could be Shohei. We have to think about whatever the clever marketing slogan's going to be, but just think about how many more tickets you might sell if you have a chance to be in left field and
Matt's
watch
not in
Shohei
on our
play
conspiracy
left.
theory.
I'm also not in on ever referring to the left field pavilion at Dodger Stadium as Mannywood. It was literally 5 seconds of our lives.
It was awesome, though. It was a fun 5 seconds.
That was 15 years ago, by the way. That was 15 years ago.
I hated it then. I hate this
time of year. Matt's missing out on all the fun, man. That was a fun time, man. It would.
Dude, I got my own thoughts. I'll keep to myself on that. Let's move on and get your thoughts on the Lourdes Gurriel Jr. contract with the Diamondbacks. The new deal, 3 years, $42 million. Harold and I feel like it makes a lot of sense on both sides. What's next for the Diamondbacks is probably the best way to treat this, right? This is what it is. Good deal for both sides. What's next?
Love it. No, I think that they're getting closer, Matt and Harold, to having that complete club as they enter next season. Because let's think about this. They made the World Series. They made the Eugenio Suarez trade. They signed Eduardo Rodriguez. And now they've signed Gurriel to go along with what is a very strong core of young position players. Think about Corbin Carroll, Gabriel Moreno, Geraldo Perdomo at shortstop. He made the All-Star team. They probably want to add a little bit more pitching, whether it's a back-end starter or maybe one more reliever. But this team is pretty close to being there. They've got some young starters on the way, like Henry and Bryce Jarvis. I like this team a lot. And we've talked about the Dodgers a ton, and we should. They've got Ohtani, and they're not done. They're trying to get Yamamoto. But guys, the reigning National League champs are in their division. They swept the Dodgers during the playoffs this year. And in a lot of ways, they're an even better team now than they were when the season ended. So
do they get JD Martinez or Justin Turner? They get one of those two?
Maybe. I tend to think that the interest in both of them is going to be higher elsewhere. Look at teams like the Mariners, Blue Jays, Cubs, the Giants potentially would be fits for all of them. So I do believe that there is interest there. Financially, not sure they can get to the level where JT and JD Martinez are going to be. But man, this is a great baseball team with the D-backs. I use that word not lightly. I mean, it is a really well-balanced club with prospects coming. I love what they're doing right now in the desert.
All right, last thing for you. With the news that we got on Friday, the Royals were pretty busy last week adding players, and it didn't stop presses nationally the way Ohtani did, but Kansas City's made themselves a lot stronger in the pecking order in the AL Central, where we have your Tigers installed as the unofficial favorites here on Hot Stove. Where are the Kansas City Royals at this hour?
They're, I think, moving closer to at least the middle of the division and maybe even higher, because when you consider what they've been able to do, adding in Lugo and Waka, they made the trade to bring in Wright. They signed Stratton. They signed Smith. They also have the Hunter Renfroe deal, which we believe is adding in there as well, along with Reagans, who did such a great job after coming over in the trade. So I like the way that they've been able to add in layers to this team. I think Waka gives them a layer of consistency that they have not often had with this rotation in a while. Zach Greinke is still out there. We talked about on the show last week. He's hoping to still pitch. May not necessarily be with the Kansas City Royals in 2024. But you look at the American League Central overall. This group of teams, the Guardians, they may actually move Bieber. They may move Naylor. The Tigers are now adding in Flaherty and Maeda. I tend to think, Matt, and it's not just the hometown thing in Michigan, the Tigers are probably a little bit ahead of the Royals right now, especially if Riley Green stays healthy. Torkelson had a breakout year for them here in 2023. The Twins, they may actually move on from Kepler and Polanco via the trade market. So it's a very well-balanced American League Central, and the Royals have moved a little bit closer to being at least a 500 team in 2024.
All right, JP Morosi with the latest after a weekend worth of, speculation, a few late deals on Friday, and perhaps more in store this week. JP, thanks.
Thanks, guys.